Good morning, children. Welcome back to our class. Children, in our previous video, we dealt with Unit 6, Section 3, Abandoned Farmhouse, the poem written by Ted Kooser. Children, we also dealt with the first two stanzas of the poem. And we also read about the author in detail. So before moving ahead with the last stanza, let's do a quick recap. Children, we read about the poet Ted Kooser, who was born in Ames, Iowa on April 25, 1939. Kooser is the author of 12 known works of poetry. He is former vice president of a reputed insurance company and lives in land near the village of Garland, Nebraska. He wrote for an hour and a half before work every morning, and by the time he retired, Kooser had published 7 books of poetry. Kooser owned a book publishing company, Windflower. Currently, Kooser teaches as a presidential professor in the English department of the University of Nebraska-Lincoln. Kooser has lived most of his life in the Midwest, preferring a more rural lifestyle. Let us now summarize the first two stanzas of the poem. Children, the poet says that life must be hard on the farm for the family that the reader never gets the chance to see or hear from the residents. Only the things forgotten and dusty and strewn can tell the story, leaving hints and clues about the life and activities of the mother, the father, and the child. This poem brings with it mystery and misfortune. How come the people had to leave? Did a natural disaster, such as a hurricane or tornado, force them to go? Or due to the incompetence of the farmer after a failed harvest? The man was caught fearing, but he left behind the Bible of all books, the one thing a religious person ought to take with them. They left without taking preserved food with them, which, because they were a poor family, is hard to understand. The poet tempts the readers to reconstruct the lives that are no longer there by giving the house and the land and other things the unheard voices of the former occupants. Children, now let's see the last stanza given on page number 248. Something went wrong, says the empty house, in the weed-choked yard. Stones in the field say he was not a farmer. The still-sealed jars in the cellar say she left in a nervous haste. And the child, its toys are strewn in the yard like branches after a storm. A rubber cow, a rusty tractor with a broken plow, a doll in overalls. Something went wrong, they say. The poet in the last stanza sums up that something went wrong at the abandoned farmhouse, using all the clues left behind from the family. He wonders if something terrible might have happened to the residents. The poet provides descriptive details of lifeless objects scattered all around the house and guesses the life of people who had lived there. It is through the forgotten things we can guess about the living standards of the former occupants. The scattered objects, preserved food, and barren land also suggest that they had left their house in a hurry long time ago. Perhaps the place was struck with either a natural calamity or a war, and the family had to escape to be safe. Children, the first half of the poem gave the readers an idea about the characters, and in the second half, the clues were put into what the poet's deduction of what happened to the family. So here we have completed our poem, Section 3, Abandoned Farmhouse. I hope it must be clear to everyone. Alright children, thank you for watching the video. Stay safe.